with all the different topics of the day, the trending discussions, what's going on in the Supreme Court. We had a chance to talk to Elsa Kurt, clearly someone who's pro law enforcement, but also she even said, as every guest I think comes on here will say, at least the ones that I call back, we have to talk. So let's see if we can actually talk now with a guy who can hear us and we can hear him. Tim Riley, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the voice I've been missing. There it is. How you been, Tim?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me again, Kevin.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I know it's been a while. I want to get you back on a routine basis again, bring you in. I love the interviews we used to do across the country with folks that are in your sort of space, and let's get people caught up. Tim Riley, improperly introduced you. Tyrant Slayer Studios is the
That's
name,
it.
and I apologize, but you have a network of folks like yourself across the country that you support. You have your own platforms you're released on, but talk a little bit about what you do, who you are, before we get talking about some of the other topics of the day.
Okay. I think the best word to describe it is we're activists. Now, I know that word kind of carries a stigma, but I'm trying to, get rid of the stigma associated with the word through time and through the experiences I can create in my content and publicize, disseminate for matters of public interest. And my colleagues and I, we take it very seriously. We love law enforcement. I'm a huge fan of law enforcement today. I am just as big a hawk on law and order as anybody else. It's our focus is on individuals, public servants, public officials, including police, more often than not, almost exclusively police officers. We focus on the bad ones. The greatest nemesis of any good police officer, the greatest nemesis of law and order is a loose cannon, is a bad police officer, someone who's not following policy and procedures, someone who's just letting the law go to the wayside and essentially allowing their emotions to dictate how the engagement is going to pan out. We like to focus on those moments, those police officers, and provide teachable moments for not just the officials, but our fellow citizens at large.
Very cool. And so, Tim Riley here, Tyrant Slayer Studio. You do participate. And just so the folks understand, one of the things that Tim does is he goes out in public. He comes across situations that he and his position sees maybe that might be jeopardizing that the rights of individuals. And you talk us through that. How does it feel like? Let's be factual. I've seen your work, and often I come right back with, well, you're interrupt. I come back right with defending the cop, and that's just it's who I am. It's in my DNA. I have heard you be very respectful. I've seen some very disrespectful content from people across the country that choose a different pathway using swear words and all that stuff. You do it in a very diplomatic way. However, you do distract the cop from his attention towards whatever target that is. And I don't mean target in like a shooting, but whatever he's dealing with. How does that work for you when you're engaging with the law enforcement? And what's the typical reaction from cops when you actually engage them?
Well, what I like to do is avoid engagement. I typically the whole premise of my presence is to essentially create an adjective record of that public engagement with our officials. So even if it's a motor vehicle traffic stop, for example, I might just stay 50, 160 feet away. I'll be in the vicinity of that stop, of that engagement, but I won't be engaging the officer. I'll just try to film. Now, more often than not, the officers tend to create that consensual contact and try to, they give you, we call it cop-splaining. It's the equivalent to telling me not to eat yellow snow. They'll say, don't get too close. Don't impede my investigation. At which time I would reply, well, that would have to be physical. Please don't focus on me. I don't want to distract you. Just handle your thing. I'm just a journalist here creating record of this engagement. And a lot of times that's good enough for the officer to kind of just go about his business and pay no mind to me, which is what we like to see. We don't want to have a combative sort of argumentative engagement. We just want to see and disclose to the public what's going on. So I try not to engage, to be honest.
Hey, Tim, can you come down just a little bit? Just so you're a little bit higher on your camera. If you can come down
Oh
just a
yeah,
little
sure.
bit, or put it up. Yeah, there you go. I'd like to see that whole face, that Hollywood look you carry. So you're out
Hey, I
there.
tried.
You do. You're pulling it off, brother. And so, and listen, you and I met each other when we both started creating content together.
Yeah.
Early on, you came on to the show when we were evolving into what we are today, currently. And I appreciate you for that. I mean, I still stand by that because I've worn a uniform and a badge. I know how distracting it is to have to be preoccupied. You say you're not distracting, but there is some level of distraction. Clearly, that the officer on that scene is getting, right. I mean, you know that.
Well, yeah, I think the climate is a contributing factor to that with all of the hatred going around the country, focused and poured onto police. I think it's a natural sort of instinctive response for an officer to be a bit uncomfortable and a bit concerned with the presence of any citizen on the outskirts of whatever scene it may be, just because he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know if I'm there to hurt him. He doesn't know. But at the same time, that does not give the officers the wiggle room to essentially violate the civil rights of the people and tell you you can't film in public here. You're impeding my investigation. They can't violate our civil rights, and the Constitution is always going to reign supreme as far as I'm concerned. That's what I'm really trying to help enforce is our civil rights. I'm not out there hating police. We don't go out there and hate police. There are, as you've mentioned, some people out there who take things to the extreme. They're very rude. They're very obnoxious. They've got a tremendous audacity, and a very profound lack of respect for law enforcement. My colleagues and I, we respect law enforcement and we respect our laws. We're really just trying to enforce our rights, evoke and stand firmly upon our rights, and go to the last line before we back down. We don't want to get arrested. Being arrested is not going to be yielding viable fruits in our efforts. And we get hatred for that sometimes. Like my audience is like, oh, well, you back down. You got no backbone. You should have let them arrest you and filed a lawsuit. Well, big news, folks. There's not a lot of money in seeking legal recourse. It's a very tedious and time-consuming process. It's very frustrating. And at the end of the day, even if you are right and you do win your case, you're not going to walk away with tens of thousands of dollars, and by then everybody's forgotten about the point of it all. So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So you're talking, and you opened up, Tim. I mean, because I don't want to keep you in a one lane highway here of, because it sounds like, for some of the listeners, the casual listeners picking this up today, that you only attack law enforcement, and you make it very clear. I don't think everyone in your industry, whatever industry that is, trying to define it is, as a crusader, feels the same way. I think there's some people in that industry are hyper focused just on law enforcement, and for whatever purposes, that's their story and journey. Your
right.
journey has to also be to point out misjustice, illegal activity in, say, government.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on Connecticut? As we wind down here, we got about another 5 to 8 minutes. Talk a little bit about Connecticut government, the people in charge, so to speak, those in office, and some of the things you're focusing on here.
My primary focus right now is on criminal judicial misconduct, specifically out of GA 19, Rockville Family Court. I've been very, looking at a number of judges very closely and the court administrators themselves. The Connecticut government, from the judicial branch all the way up to the governor's mansion, in my observations, in my humble opinion, and in my analysis, I would say is absolutely a rogue government. It is absolutely out of control. It lies to us every day, deceives the people on our economics. They would lead us to believe that we have a surplus in a slush fund, but really we've just borrowed a bunch of money that was printed by the federal government to offset our delinquencies, if you will. But the government is out of control. The judicial branch is devastating families across the state, mine included. I was illegally, unlawfully arrested on November the 29th last year, simply trying to collect and retain records of my very own court case. And this courthouse, a number of clerks, and even judicial marshals have essentially barred access to all of those records, preventing me from helping a minor child who is in a very dangerous very traumatic, very abusive situation right now, and it's being facilitated by the state of Connecticut, despite my greatest efforts to prevent any of this to continue on any further. I'm still essentially at square one, and now I have a plethora of secondary issues to deal with. My Freedom of Information Act request just came back, and the marshals who made statements, incriminating statements about me to the police when I was arrested that day, I've gotten those documents, and every single statement in those forms is false. It's fictitious. So I mean, I'm working on writing my own affidavits. I can't get bar associated attorneys in this state to pick up my case and challenge the judicial system. No one wants to ruffle any feathers. No one wants to fight for real justice and real freedom. They're all afraid of something. I'm not afraid. I'm going to fight. I'm fighting for my daughter. I'm fighting for your rights. I'm fighting for families all across Connecticut. And I need help. You know, as successful as I've been, I still need a great level of help. You know, I'm learning as I go, and you know, it's a very painful process when I get hate mail from people. You know, people are calling me a kitty diddler. People are calling me a pedophile. They're calling me an alcoholic. People are threatening my life. I've had 3 legit death
Why would
threats
anyone be calling you those kinds of names? What's the purpose
just
of that?
to essentially. They're called trolls. We call them trolls on YouTube. There's a community of people who hate individuals like me who put police on camera. They are from, I wouldn't want to say your neck of the woods, but they are aligned with the beliefs of, let's say, some of the biggest fans of law enforcement today, but they don't have the capacity to actually relish what I'm doing and comprehend it. They just hate me. They just hate me for it. Any sort of questioning of authority, and I become a conspiracy theorist, crazy alcoholic.
Tim, do you support their freedom of speech to be heard? I
Absolutely,
mean, yeah, you do.
absolutely. I just find it very depressing. It's very telling of the mental health status of the state of Connecticut and the country as a whole today. There is a great big disconnect that we have to address and overcome in order to create the unity that folks like you and I ultimately know we need to move forward in a successful path of progress, you know. And I don't at this time have an answer of how to get rid of that disconnect, because the void is so great and it's filled with such nasty, defamatory, obnoxious, you know, just content that people
I
are
think
using to make money. They're doing it for clicks and views. They like to sabotage the honest folks that are misconceived as demonizing law enforcement. You know, it's a very tricky
it's one of those
situation.
it's one of those interesting facts that when you look at the scenario that we discussed as we're currently talking about your platform, what you do, a lot of people in your lane have been inspired through a personal, and you shared, you have a personal journey of your own that inspired you. Hey, I've been treated this way. I'm going to take this on so I can help that other people aren't treated this way. I know I get that from you, but I think initially it's hard for people to understand. And I also know that I don't agree with most of the stuff that you put out with some of the ways that you do it. But I do think that First Amendment, and I want to finish with this quick 2-minute conversation here. The President of the United States, disinformation. I've been banned from YouTube for life because I've had people on my show that said things that didn't agree with their policies. Yet your platform and many others like your platform, the Al Qaeda, we can see them on YouTube, but I'm banned for life. Is that fair?
No, absolutely not. But I will tell you this: the positive in that tragedy is you could wear that as a badge of honor. Clearly, you were doing something very right. And the establishment, you know, big tech and its little orgy with the federal government that's controlling the flow of all information, you know, they're afraid of you. So that's a badge of honor. They don't want your perspective, your ideas, your philosophies, and your energy to reach fellow Americans and create the unity that you're trying to create, because that's a threat to the establishment. I think it's very unfair. It's a great injustice. It's a violation of your First Amendment right. I mean, really, what they're doing is anti-American. I think we have precedents to reestablish HUAC, House of Un-American Activities Committee, and I think that committee should take a very close look at social media and what's going on the internet on a broad spectrum of a number of forums and domains, because we got to get a handle on these things before they start toppling our country here, and taking away our voices that we need to be able to have some level of control over our lives here.
Tim Riley, Tyrant Slayer Studio. Where can people find your platform if they want to look at what you're doing, your content, support you, all those other things? Let people know where they can do that.
You can absolutely check me out on YouTube. Just do a quick search, Tyrant Slayer Studios. I'm also on Facebook. If you type up in the search field at Worthy Son of Liberty, you can get right to my Tyrant Slayer Studio page and group. I recommend that you follow both of them. Again, I don't hate police. I'm trying to create justice and basically an atmosphere where we can all comfortably and evoke and enforce our rights, and do so without fear of being beaten up and taken to prison, or removed from a town council meeting, or board of education meeting. And you can also find my colleagues on Activism News Network. If you do a quick Google of Activism News Network, my 21 colleagues and I, we have a nice little channel featured on Roku. You can also find us on Google Play, Apple Play, Amazon, all that stuff. We feature a lot of body cam footage and a lot of internal documents there upon that channel. It's very informative, very educational, and I would be overwhelmed with joy if people would go ahead and support our efforts there.
Tim, thanks so much. Give me a call later. I might have something for filming that I might need, so I want to talk to you about that. Timothy Riley, we don't have to agree to disagree, or no, maybe we don't have to disagree to agree. I don't know what it is, but either way, I appreciate you coming on. Maybe we'll get you on more often if you're willing to talk about some of the the hot button topics of the day. Certainly, enough news is going to be ramping up. It's a
Oh,
2022
yeah.
election, so they'll have a lot of news in the cycle.
I'm
Timothy
looking forward
Riley.
to it, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, myself, my friend. Listen. I think the point of that kind of conversation that you see here in this platform is exactly what Tim said. We are going to take on those conversations with people that often are uncomfortable. Quite frankly, that some people want to stay in a lane, and I often criticize CNN for their one lane politics. I often criticize even those people on the far right side who are they don't have the ability to sit down, because at the end of the day, folks, this country wasn't built on one personality or one nationality. It certainly wasn't established because only this can survive and prosper in America. And through the evolution of our country, we've seen a different dream. We could go back to Martin Luther King and his vision of his dream. It certainly today doesn't sit. I believe Martin Luther King would have a different version of his dream. I think his version of today's dream would be a place of uniting people, even in the difference of opinions. And the battle for which Martin Luther King spoke about is something that we should all kind of remember. The fact of the matter is, a man who can stand honesty in his heart with the Lord's backing is the one that I want to speak to, no matter whether or not I agree. Maybe with that topic or the discussion, maybe it's time for us just to agree that we don't have to agree. Stop censoring. Stop taking people off platforms. Stop telling people what they can and can't say. Stop arguing over a disagreement. Have a discussion. And that's exactly what we do on this platform each and every day. And if you want to know why it's working, folks, that's why we're going to be off the air today talking to some folks about the next opportunity. And believe me when I tell you that it's starting to come together. And that's why I'm so jacked up to share this journey. Elsa Kurt, having her come back on. Dr. Kendra been here from the beginning. Timothy Riley's been here from the beginning. We're going to incorporate all those people into this opportunity, because to me, it's not about what I'm doing as much as it's about what we've done as a community. We've actually put people together in this experiment called the Kevin Allen Show, where we put different topics together on a platform and we have an open discussion. At the end of the day, maybe we walk away learning something a little new. Maybe we walk away, reaffirmed in our debates. Maybe we walk away just open minded a little bit more to at least listen. Maybe it's only 30 seconds. Maybe it's a minute. Next week, we'll work on 2 to 5 minutes of that ability to listen. But I will promise you this, at the end of the day, like a broken relationship, America suffers. The choice is, do we just file for a divorce and ultimately divide us as a union, or do we find a way to bring us back together? I'm going to lean towards finding that way. I'm an American. I'm proud to be. I always will be. And I'm going to fight for that moment when we can all just sit around a table, have an open discussion with open hearts and acceptance of each other. I hope you enjoyed this episode, this show. The Tuesday, I got to start talking like radio talk, like my man Lee Elsey. And guys, I'll be on Lee Elsey's show tomorrow. I'll make an announcement later. I'm going to be on Lee Elsey's show early in the morning. I think around 7 or 7:30 a.m. on 94.9 FM. Lee Elsey, look him up. He's a huge deal. He's the reason I got behind the microphone. I owe everything to Lee. We'll be on his show talking the current events, current topics of the day, sharing some of our stories with him and his with I and going from there. But folks, at the end of the day, we appreciate what you're doing, which is tuning in each and every day. Please share this. Please share it. Please share it again and then share it again and share it again and ask people to please support us because, as you know, we can't grow this without your help. We'll see you tomorrow on the next show, Wednesday show, The Kevin Allen Show.